Hello guys, Sanjay here and welcome back to a new video. And in this video finally we are going to talk about the Threadripper which I had, which was 1950X, and I posted so many pictures and so many tests on my Instagram stories and my Twitter account that I did not end up making a video about that because I had the Threadripper only for few days, like 3 to 4 days for testing, plus I had to use it and I had to shoot multiple videos and on those days. So it was kinda difficult, but I did some of my testings. I did not play a lot of games with the Threadripper because I was mainly focusing on Premiere Pro and Sony Vegas Pro. But no worries, I did few other benchmarks which I'll mention in this video. But before that, let's talk about the build which I built. So I had the Ryzen Threadripper 1950X, 16 cores, 32 threads, base clock is 3.4 GHz, and it can go up to 4 GHz when system needs that much. And the most important thing, it is unlocked officially. Like, you do not have to go ahead and do something. You can overclock the processor by using AMD's tuning software. So that was pretty easy, and 1950X unboxing experience was pretty good. You get the processor which is much larger as compared to i3, i5 or even the i7s or even the Ryzen 3 5 series processors that I've seen. In the box you also get a screwdriver to tighten the screws. In the beginning you may think what's the use of this screwdriver, but I'll explain that in a minute. When it comes to motherboard, I had the Asus Prime X399A motherboard which has 8 USB 3.1 ports, Intel's Gigabyte LAN port, inbuilt amp which is present in the motherboard, so you do not have to buy a separate amp, even though that amp may not serve as good as external amp, but that's totally fine. You have the option of that. It supports up to 36 megahertz. When it comes to RAMs, U.2, M.2 supports are obviously present in this motherboard. This is one of the highest end X399 motherboards that you can buy at this moment, and obviously it has the support for TR4 sockets, because of which we can use the Threadripper in this motherboard. And I had 16 GB of memory clocked at 2400 megahertz, and I did not overclock it. That's the base clock frequency for the RAM which I'm using in this video. And when it comes to installing the processor, the method is quite different. This time you do not have to keep the processor on the motherboard. You have to slide it into this and then press it on the motherboard. Now to secure it, you have to use the screwdriver which is provided with the Threadripper, and that's the use of the screwdriver to tighten it. And there is specific method by which you have to tighten it, and there is a specific method by which you have to untighten it. Like 1, 2, 3, these are the numbers marked on the motherboard or the socket. You have to tighten the first screw first, then second, then third, and when you want to open it up, unscrew the third one first, then second one, and then first one. This is the way you have to do it, and this is mentioned on the motherboard too, so do not worry much about that. But if you are trying to build a 1950X, it may require a little bit of force, and it gives you a feeling when you try to tighten it that it's enough now, like you can't tighten it more. So that's a good thing. When it comes to cooler, and you have to use a cooler with 1950X because obviously 16 cores and 32 threads cannot be handled by a normal basic cooler which we use with our basic processors. That's not gonna work. I had the Cooler Master Master Liquid Pro 240 cooler in this particular case, and it worked super fine with stock frequencies. It was able to keep the processor under around 60 degrees Celsius even when I was running CPU intensive benchmarks on the PC. So that was quite surprising. And the good thing is that AMD Threadripper does not overheat even when you game a lot for a longer period of time, or if you do synthetic benchmarks for a longer amount of time. And when it comes to power supply, I used the Cooler Master 700 watt power supply, which was more than sufficient to provide power to this system. And graphics card, Asus 1080 Ti graphics card, the best that you can get right now. And 1080 Ti means that gaming is going to be a bliss on this device. And before I start talking about the benchmarks, let me share my own personal experience that I had with the Threadripper machine. Currently, I use the i7 4790 with 8 GB of RAM. i7 is decent. I won't say that it's bad. 4-core, 4-thread processor. Even though after using the Threadripper, I'm missing Threadripper a lot. I was happy with the i7. I was not like dissatisfied with its rendering speeds, but after using the Threadripper, I realized that my i7 is very slow, because if it would have taken me 20 minutes to render a video on Sony Vegas Pro, Threadripper takes almost 4 minutes to render that complete video. Basically, if I have a 10-minute video, my i7 takes around 25 to 30 minutes to render that video. But if I have a 10-minute video, Threadripper takes 10 minutes or 8 minutes to render that video on Sony Vegas Pro. Same is the case with the Premiere Pro, and that is amazing. When I'm rendering a video on my i7 PC build, I cannot do anything else. So I have to go around in the house. I have to do something on my device phone or anything else, but I cannot do anything on my PC because while rendering i7 is at around 95% or 99% usage, so I cannot, even if I open up Chrome, the experience is very laggy. But that's not the case with Threadripper. I had more than 10 tabs open in Chrome while the video was getting rendered. Not only this, I opened up Photoshop and started editing the thumbnail while the video was getting rendered. Editing the thumbnail becomes a very painful process because once you complete rendering, my internet connection is so fast that it uploads on YouTube in within 5 minutes, and I cannot edit a thumbnail within 5 minutes because that may take a little bit of time. I was doing all this stuff at the same time and still the processor was like, okay, nothing much. Everything was very smooth even with 16 GB of RAM. And obviously you can, if you boost that up to 32 GB of RAM or 64 GB of RAM, the experience will be even more smoother. You can have 20, 30 or 40 tabs open in Chrome at the same time, render a video, open Photoshop. And I had one more screen where I was listening to songs with VLC Media Player, but VLC Media Player does not take much of CPU uses as such. But I was doing all that and I was very happy with the Threadripper's performance. Extremely good processor. After this, now let's talk about benchmarks, because this is a CPU which goes into desktop and this is not a CPU in a smartphone where optimization matters in a smartphone. But when it comes to processor, raw performance matters when it comes to processors like this. I did multiple benchmarks with the Threadripper and I realized that single core performance of the Threadripper is not as good as multi-core performance, which is quite obvious when it comes to AMD because Intel has been the king when it comes to single core performance as of today. Same is the case with Apple when it comes to smartphones, because Apple's single core performance is extremely good as compared to Qualcomm. Qualcomm is nowhere close. Now let's talk about benchmarks. When it comes to Cinebench R15, I got the score of 2869 with multi-threaded performance. Everyone uses the Fishy Cat render, which is Blender. And I got the score of 27 seconds with 1950x. If you have a different machine or high-end machine like this, you can obviously compare these scores by testing the same application on yours. So do try that if you have that. On CPU mark, I got the score of 24,152 when it comes to multi-threaded performance, and single core performance was 2073. 3D Mark Firestrike Ultra is a very huge name. I got the CPU score of 26,789 with this particular hardware, and that's a great performance in my opinion. And when it comes to gaming, I did not try many games. I should have, but I had very little time and I had to do videos at the same time, and I was so happy with the performance of this 1950X. I'll share my thoughts in a minute. But when it comes to gaming, I did try the GTA 5 at 1080p because when you try a game at 4K, it will end up using the GPU more as compared to CPU. So it did not make much sense to me. So that's why I tried GTA 5 at 1080p and I got around 130 FPS with GTA 5. But I did try the Rise of the Tomb Raider with 4K setting and I got around 41 FPS with Ultra settings. CSGO is a very low end game when it comes to GPUs. I can use my 750 Ti, which is few years old, and it still gives more than 100 FPS. So when it comes to 1080 Ti with Threadripper, it was too good. You can get more than 300 FPS with maxed out settings at 1080p on CSGO, which is quite easy to achieve. I was able to achieve that with 1080 Ti and with a i5 processor. And I guess that's pretty much it for the benchmarks. And when it comes to benchmarks, this processor performs extremely good. I was very happy with the benchmarks, plus I was very happy with the performance, raw performance it was giving. I had the plans, or I still have the plans of buying a MacBook Pro so that my editing process can become easier. But after using the Threadripper, it made me confused because Threadripper performed so good and I can get the Threadripper at around 70,000 rupees or 80,000 rupees in local markets. Even though that's a lot, like people build a complete system at this budget. If you want to skip on MacBook Pro and want to build a PC, you can go with Threadripper. I already have DDR4 RAMs laying around my house. And if you're thinking why I don't have the Threadripper build, because AMD took it back, I'm really sad. I was really sad. That day was one of the saddest day in my life because Threadripper went away. I miss you. We do have Intel's 8th generation processors coming in, and if I get the 8th generation processors with me, then obviously I'll do testing and I'll try to compare it against the Threadripper, which I have already done. It made me rethink my decision of buying a Mac, and I did not mention this anywhere because I wanted to keep this particular thing to this video only. buying a Threadripper over a MacBook Pro seems like a good decision to me because I have started playing games, even though those are CSGO and PUBG only as of now. Like I play those on daily basis. I may expand soon. So spending 1,50,000 or 2 lakh rupees on a laptop, which will end up limiting myself to not playing games, but I'll be able to render videos with Final Cut Pro. But that's what I am getting with the 1950X Threadripper, or that I may get with Intel's 8th generation processors. Is the MacBook Pro worth it? Threadripper made me think that. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give this video a huge thumbs up. If you still have any more doubt, suggestions or queries regarding this video, do let me know about that in the comment section box below. And I did not do overclocking with the Threadripper because I only had 3 to 4 days and I had other videos to make too, plus this video, plus it was a little bit confusing and it was my kind of first time doing this stuff. So if I did any mistake, do let me know about that in the comment section box below. This is one of the first PC benchmarking or my experience with a PC build that I did. I did not do a build video because that was not supposed to be a build video as such. It was supposed to be a 1950X experience video. So do let me know your thoughts on this video in the comment section box below. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for watching.